We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This has been a difficult month for Leavenworth County community and families as we mourn the losses of several students.
I'm sorry, I just can't be blocked.
I apologize for that. This has been a very difficult month for Leavenworth County community and families as we mourn the losses of several students. This is kind of unusual. We can go generations without having this. But I would like to lead us in a moment to acknowledge this loss. So I ask if each of you would just take a breath, close your eyes if you wish to, and share this moment of silence with me. I will say a few words, then ask for all of us to have the moment of silence, and then I will indicate the conclusion of that moment. Our own Cruz Burris passed away, and other area high schools feel loss also. We mourn their loss, gone too soon. Cruz now knows the glory of where all of our lives are leading. We acknowledge a life cut too short, but in no way less important than a life lived many more years. The most important thing we can give to others is our attention. We acknowledge how fleeting life is, and the rest of us may honor Cruz and the others by being mindful and respectful in engaging one another, remembering their lives and being exuberant about our own. Thank you.
Thank you, Carla. I'm going to move on to 1.1, recognition of standout students and staff.
Come in. Andrew Wessel, can you come this way, please? There you go. I'd like to share just come on up. Right up here, right by me. This was information from Coach Pollard. This was earlier in the year. This is what he said about you, Andrew, and this is why you are the Certificate of Honor Award winner from the Board of Education. Andrew is a peer mentor in my unified PE class. He has gone above and beyond to make all kids feel important and include all in what is going on in the class. We have a student who is wheelchair bound, and Andrew partnered with him to participate in the 12-minute run and pushed him during the solo run. Both activities are required tests for PE students, and Andrew went above what is asked of him to make sure the student had the opportunity to participate. When testing was done, Andrew continued to push the student around and befriend that student. And Andrew, that's why you are February award winner of the Board of Education recognition. So we'll go up there. Okay, how about that? Let's come up here, Andrew. Oh, yeah. Good surprise. Is that good? How about right here? Right in the middle. Right in the middle. You're in the middle. There you go. You're good. Y'all almost got it. That'll work. Yeah, I was going to tell them the water's all restored.
I don't know that.
I'll tell you.
I think you should share that. wish I had his hair.
I got one story first, though, as most of you know, I'm a storyteller by heart. So I'm in the front office, and Andrew is coming into the front office. He's standing there with, how many of you drive a Jeep? So you know the big water bottles, like you would put water into your engine, is carrying around as a water jug. I said, how are you drinking all of that water? And he said, already drank one today. It was 9:45, folks. So I don't know who had him in the afternoon, but he went to the restroom, I would imagine, a lot. I did have to add one thing. Do you remember what I told you it needed? It needed a straw, because that would have taken it over the top. Congratulations, Andrew. Thanks for letting me share. Christina, you want to come up? If you weren't at the board meeting last month, which all of you weren't, I hope you all watched it on YouTube, though. Christina brought her kids in to give us a little presentation about some inclusive playgrounds. But this was written about her and why she is this month's awardee. This is for going above and beyond every day as a teacher at Lansing. She never stops working after school is over and is always taking parent emails, phone calls at all times a day, and never complaining about it. She is an excellent leader in our district and needs to be recognized for it. And with that, Christina Mills is this month's awardee for Employee of the Month. Congratulations. Come over here. Okay. Congratulations.
Okay, we're moving on to approval of agenda and approval of the consent agenda.
I make a motion to remove items 2.8 and 8.1, one from the consent agenda, and move them to items 9.3 and 9.4.
I second that.
I have a motion and a second to remove 2.8 and 8.1 and place them to 9.3
And 9.4.
and 9.4. All in favor, raise your right hand. Aye. All opposed? 7-0. So we just need a motion for the remainder, right? So now we need a motion for the agenda and consent agenda with changes.
I make a motion to approve agenda and consent agenda as adjusted.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Motion and second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 7-0. Okay, moving down to public presentations. And we have a lot of people signed up tonight, so we're gonna keep to the 2 minutes per person so everyone can have their chance to talk, since we only have 30 minutes set aside for this. First will be Lindsay Doolittle.
When you're coming up, make sure that the red button is pushed down, and then that should turn the mic on. If it's on all the time, it gets a little feedback. Thank you.
And I'll let you know when you have about 15 seconds left.
Thank you. My name is Lindsay Doolittle, and I've been a school educator for 15 years, hence the shirt. One of my students made it for me, hence the apron. I'm also a 2001 graduate of Lansing High School, and There is no other kind of teacher I'd rather be than a public school educator. It means that I get them all, I teach them all, I support them all. And if there was an assault on the school, I would try to protect them all. When I heard how the school board had banned the Laramie Project, my thoughts are, you get them all, but you don't support them all. You support the ones you want. You are picking and choosing who gets to be safe, and you are picking and choosing who is marginalized. You protect who you want, and you are picking who you want to hurt. I almost feel like this is an assault on the school. My senior year of high school, our principal announced over the intercom that no same-sex couples would be allowed at the winter dance. I felt disgusted, embarrassed, and ashamed to go to Lansing. I didn't speak up back then because I didn't think I could, and I don't think I really had a choice back then as a teenager. But I want to thank my principal, though. She showed me how not to be a teacher. When I heard that the Laramie Project had been banned, those same feelings started creeping back. I had to dig deep past the shame and disgust to remind myself that there are some really kind and accepting teachers here at Lansing that did create safe environments for all their students. Mr. Church, Ms. Scott, Ms. Schmidt.
15 seconds.
Thank you for making me and others feel like we belong.
Rebecca Davis.
Hello? Okay. In 2019, our superintendent shared his convocation message, Know Your Why. That message was extremely powerful to me and became part of my daily work at Lansing. My why. My name is Rebecca Davis, and I'm a licensed master social worker at Lansing High School. The license I hold, which is mandatory by the district, requires me to uphold the Social Work Code of Ethic and its primary mission to enhance human well-being and help meet the basic human needs of all people, with particular attention to the needs and empowerment of people who are vulnerable and oppressed and living in poverty. I believe in this mission, and it is a large part of my why. At last month's board meeting, the board demonstrated that they too believe in the enhancing human well-being by their strong support for improving the playground at Lansing Elementary School. Having an inclusive playground will allow all students who are able-bodied and disabled the right to play together with their friends in a safe and supportive environment. This is so good and makes me super proud of the district's efforts. Contrary, recent board-approved policies do not convey the same belief system for our students of color and our LGBTQIA+ students. Our student buildings and classrooms do not feel inclusive, but rather exclusive. To the board and the community, please listen to what folks are saying about how our students are being negatively impacted by these exclusive policies that have been approved. These exclusive policies regarding inclusive symbols, clubs, and curriculums do not increase our students' personal success or enhance their well-being. These exclusive policies are hurting our kids and setting them up for failure in our diverse and great nation. Now, speaking to our students, my why. With a little help from Dr. Pat Oker's
15
words,
seconds.
to the students of Lansing USD, I see you. I offer these two final thoughts. Know that you are truly loved by many here, not just for what you do, but for who you are. And second, the light that is in with you, don't hide it under a bush. Let it shine. Thank you.
Katrina Hawkins.
Hello. I am using my voice as a Lansing school parent of 12 years to speak to you tonight. And I can say without irony that I have never experienced a time such as this in this district. To purport that reading, writing, and arithmetic are the only things that should be learned within a school building is to blatantly ignore the hundreds of years of history in which schools have served to be both a place of learning and a safe haven for all children, regardless of their economic status, color of their skin, or gender identities. To put forth that there is only one right way to live and that a safe space sticker somehow violates that way of life is to nullify and ostracize a portion of our community. Unfortunately, members of this school board have appeared on national news programs promoting the idea that they just want both sides taught when it comes to topics like slavery, gender, and history in general, while at the same time refusing to acknowledge the other side of the actions they take within this community. Members of our board have been used as pawns in a nationwide ploy to use school boards as a springboard to infiltrating our communities with Christo-fascist ideologies in the name of going back to basics. I am here to tell you that you were not elected to only serve a certain segment of this community or this nation at large. You were elected to represent the entire Lansing, Kansas community, and that includes my kids and many students that are here today. And not just, your job is to serve the needs of all the children in this school district, not just the ones who align with your personal belief system. Please do the job you were elected to do and represent all of the students of Lansing USD 469. Thank you.
Nicole Yedlinski.
Dear Superintendent Wessel and Board of Education members, the ACLU of Kansas is providing testimony tonight concerning the board's decision to remove various social justice and LGBTQ-related materials from the district's curriculum, as well as a series of other decisions made by the board that appear to target and disproportionately harm LGBTQ students. These actions not only undermine the diversity and inclusion in your district, but they also raise serious legal questions involving your students' constitutional and federal rights. We strongly urge the board to stop censoring the educational materials available to students, restore the materials removed from the curriculum in January 2023, remove the parental consent requirements to participate in student clubs, and to protect all students' rights going forward. While we are aware there have been demands made by a vocal minority that this body remove certain materials from curriculum, these demands track a politicized narrative and focus on materials that discuss the experiences of LGBTQ communities and/or communities of color. By rejecting your own Material Review Committee's recommendations and conceding to these demands, you are placing the opinions of a few individuals over the constitutional and federal rights of your students. Removing materials that reflect the experiences of LGBT communities and communities of color is inconsistent with federal anti-discrimination law. Removing these materials also presents profound issues of free expression, as students' right to free speech includes a right to receive information and ideas, and government actors cannot remove materials, quote, simply because they dislike the ideas contained therein. Removing these materials that reflect the experiences of LGBTQ people and people of color not only deprives students of their right to an equal educational experience, it tells students in these communities that they are not accepted by your schools. Passing additional policies that make it harder for LGBTQ students to find community or support at school only exacerbates the problem. The ACLU of Kansas urges the board to make the right decision for its community, stop censoring valuable educational materials, and respect the constitutional and federal rights of your students. We will continue to monitor the situation and consider next steps depending on the future actions the board takes. Thank you. DC Heigert, Skadden Foundation, LGBTQ Fellow, ACLU of Kansas.
It's not working. Oh. Jackie Kennedy.
Okay. When you insisted on creating a Parents' Bill of Rights, you said that because all of these points already exist, there should be no problem approving it. So you approved it. But when you removed safe space stickers, you said all of our spaces should be safe, so the stickers aren't needed. Do you see the contradiction there? You've hinted at the safe space stickers being related to the GLSEN organization is the reason you removed them. If you don't want to support GLSEN, then you should have no problem allowing a unique design for a safe space sticker, because all of our spaces should be safe, so it isn't a problem to display a sticker, right? About 10 years ago, our district identified bullying as a problem, and our schools were covered in anti-bullying messaging. Bully-free zones were common, but today, we can't be bothered to show our LGBTQ people the same support. I guarantee there are students who need to see those safe space stickers, and I suspect some of them, a bunch of them, are here tonight. Ask them what they need, listen to what they say, and show them the support they deserve. As someone said just a few moments ago, the most important thing we can give to someone is our attention.
November Bullard.
I have no idea this is on around. Okay. One of the main goals of a successful, proactive, and productive school board is maintaining a sense of community. Keeping social divides at bay is a necessity to upkeep it, and this is easily one of the first steps in fueling them. Not only that, but it shows the students at Lansing High School that we don't prioritize identity and we don't prioritize community. Lansing, thus far as my experience has gone, has thrived of being the pillar of acceptance. And targeting communities like our student-led Gay Straight Alliance is a major step backwards. And quite frankly, is nowhere near the peak of concerns, such as the pressing issue of an already strong and growing mental health crisis. The beginning of this meeting was a perfect highlight of why that should be higher on the list. Silencing marginalized communities shouldn't even be on that list, and the fact that you're prioritizing erasure is, quite frankly, appalling. As someone who has been here at Lansing since kindergarten, I can say with 101% certainty that the bonds forged by these kinds of communities has affected not only me, but many other students positively. And it's imperative that you take the word students with a few hundred pounds. The erasure and silencing of these communities has zero benefits for you. In fact, the massive outcry that this will initiate will be nothing but a negative name for you and has only negative effects for the students here at Lansing High School, which is exactly who you should be prioritizing, whether you support their beliefs or not. Thank you.
Nikki Spidarski.
Let me get my stuff pulled up. Yeah. Moment. All right. I learned I was gay at the age of 14. There was nothing sexual about that realization. It was simply that I thought a girl was pretty. And yet, this board has decided to take actions against queer students every step of the way. Last month's meeting, I warned that they would use the KASB approved policy to remove safe space stickers, and 2 weeks later, they silently did that without notifying students. I promise you, students need these stickers. When I was a freshman, I thought I didn't deserve to exist because I had the gall to love women. I thought I didn't deserve to exist, but those safe space stickers taught me that there are people who do think I have value and do think I deserve to exist. I am confident in who I am now, but I know there are people who are not, and it is for them that I speak here today. They need those stickers to tell them that they are loved, that they are accepted. What is even more appalling to me is the actions this board has taken against criticism. For one, around 2 weeks ago, a board member harassed me to the point where I had to involve administration so that I felt safe on my own campus. This should not be something any 17-year-old has to go through. I should not have to fight petty battles with adults for my own safety in my own building. Additionally, at the January 30th work session, the response to criticism from many board members was simply that other boards have experienced criticism before. However, they neglected to consider the actual meat of these concerns. Board members, I have told you this once and I will tell you this again. Students are terrified of you. Teachers are terrified of you. We deserve to feel loved and safe, and you have done nothing to forward that. If you would like to emulate the example that you so strive to achieve and show students that we are loved and deserve to exist, you will do the following. You will reinstitute safe space stickers.
Time is up, Nikki.
All right, well, that's it, folks.
Guy Workman. Guy Workman.
How did I do it? All right.
Yep, there you go.
Sweet. I won't need the whole 2 minutes. You're all welcome. All right, so we've already heard about the meeting last month where the objectionable material in the English literature class was pulled. I'm here to inform the board that 2 weeks after you made that decision, my daughter was given an assignment from the same teacher. One part of the assignment was defending abortion, which I thought was highly politicized and inappropriate in a room. And then that's not the worst part. She also, part of the assignment was to, well, how was it exactly worded? Being against the censorship or pornography. My daughter is 17. There's no adult in this room, and there's no parent that will let their 17-year-old have adults introduce them to pornography. That is grooming and unacceptable in any education environment. I don't care what your beliefs are. Do something about these educators. The good ones need to stay. Maybe the new ones need some grooming, not some grooming, some development. That was a mistake. Now, some development and mentorship from people that know what's going on. But as a parent, I better not find any more adults associated with the school presenting my daughter pornography.
Kirsten Workman.
Just got it.
I just want to remind everybody to be respectful of whoever is up speaking, regardless of the side that they are taking. And also, we also need to remember that this is a time to talk about policy and board decisions, not teachers or anything evaluative. Thanks.
Thank you. Is that better? Okay. At the risk of sounding condescending, I'd also like to offer you all a letter grade for your actions during last month's meeting, particularly handling conduct. That's an A+. Here's my specific feedback. Mr. Robinson, you are a class act, respectful and fair to everyone. Last month, you showed great restraint to slightly turn away from a group of rude and unruly hecklers in order to continue the business at hand. Well done. Ms. Wiegers, you are not an expletive lost cause. I'm sure you already know that, but your actions have proven that you stand firm to your values, want what's best for the district, and are no one's malleable little pawn. I hope you enjoy hearing someone else say so out loud. Ms. Wood, you managed to stop an orchestrated tantrum dead in its tracks with an appropriate reminder to think of others. That was a win-win for all of us. Ms. Covey, thank you for encouraging others to be civil in spite of differences of opinion. That showed a level of kindness and grace that has not been extended to you by the monthly peanut gallery. Moving on, I support a policy that allows for the judicious removal of political messaging in our taxpayer-funded classrooms. I'd also like to offer the following thoughts on that topic. No one needs a sticker to forge a connection with another human being, and teachers don't need stickers to tell their students that they love and care for them. Teachers don't need to advertise their commitment to enforce for a particular group what's supposed to be a unilateral no bullying policy. Messaging stickers in a classroom can serve as an invitation for a child to disclose sensitive information to an adult who is not sufficiently trained or resourced to offer the support, privacy, and protection that messaging implies. Teachers have no business talking to children about their sexuality without the specific endorsement of a parent or guardian. It undermines the family unit. Some teachers seem to want to treat their students as though they are
15
their own
seconds.
children, patients, or friends. It doesn't take a lot of foresight to see how that can be dangerous for all involved. Adults engaging with kids about sexuality is a problem in our high school, and I request the board address it with an enforceable policy about professional boundaries. Thank you.
Peter M.
Can you hear me? All right. Good evening. Hey, I want to just take a moment just to say thank you to Dan Wessel for his 24 years in service to the community. I'm going to run out of time. But Dan, I really wanted to publicly thank you for all you've done in your service to this community as well as leading. It's been a privilege to watch you grow over the past four years as superintendent. And you certainly have had an impact not only on me and my family, but of course throughout the community. Not often do you take time to go and talk about people's families, but once in a while, you know a lot about the quality of a person by the children that they raise, and it was a privilege to have had your daughter in CCD. And to this day, I always think of Kara as one of the great ones, and it's a reflection upon you and your leadership, as well as your capacity. And so, just from one humble member of this community, for all you've done and all the challenges you've endured, I thank you. I know Oskaloosa is going to be very, very fortunate to have you. I only wish that as time goes on, that the same wisdom and courage and willingness to engage will be found by your successor, as well as lessons that you leave upon all of us and even our board. And so I thank you for your transparency, your honesty, your ability to be able to try to bridge many, many gaps for all of us. It's a lesson that I think many members, not only within this community, but really among the board members, should take to heart. Thank you. Thanks, Dan.
Sarah Hedberg.
Yeah, no, it is. Good evening. I'd like to start off with, I'm a junior at Lansing High School. I've been going here since 6th grade. And throughout my experience, it's been a pretty good one. But I'd like to start today off with discussing the recent school board decisions. Firstly, the ban of the social justice unit in the on-level English 12 classes, promoting censorship. Second, the removal of safe space stickers and other non-educational decorations, promoting disinclusion. Thirdly, the threat to remove our very own student-led clubs. These 7 board members are supposed to represent the people of USD 469. They are supposed to have the students' and teachers' best interests in mind, and I can confidently say this is not the case. When asked if these people do have our best interests in mind, 26.32% disagree. A good majority of the students and staff fear the Board of Education. This is a problem. Enforcing these policies does not make you brave. It's not the hard decision to make. You're simply making the wrong decisions. I urge you to take a second and think about who you represent And who has to live with your policies? The once inclusive, supportive community at Lansing is quickly being lost. Thank you.
Isabel Williams.
Board, audience, I stand before you today to remind the board of their purpose, as lately it seems they haven't been following through with their goals as described in the 2022 through 2025 goals document available on the district website. One of these goals includes to maximize the achievement of each student in all academic areas, including objectives of to create an academic system of trust and transparency and to foster a system of academic excellence. Another one of these goals is to recruit and retain high-quality teachers and support staff. I can tell you that when they constantly have to dodge attacks on their rights and their personal safety, there is zero trust in the academic system from students, which is clearly stated to be needed for student achievement. Furthermore, forcing out teachers and staff because they respect the needs of all of their students is once again counterproductive. High-quality teachers that don't care for their students is an oxymoron. They do not exist. I can't see how these kinds of teachers can be recruited when they must battle with restrictions on how they can care for their students. Moving on to the final goal of the board, to implement effective systems that are responsive to our students, staff, and community. We are speakers stating our needs. The board is deliberately not responding to our needs and requests. Our need to be able to achieve academically in an environment where we can trust the administration above us and have high-quality teachers that are allowed to care for their students. Board, I ask you, get back on track. And audience, I ask you to remember how fleeting that this board's power can be. Like all systems in this country, its power is afforded by the people. If the system is not following through on its goals for its constituents, including the hundreds of valuable students in this district, I implore you, vote and take action. Thank you.
That's the conclusion of the public presentations. So we'll be moving on to 3.2, evaluation overview. Brian Burns.
Chris, I'm going to share and make sure that we can see it, okay? Wait 1 second, Brian. Make sure it's up there. Can you see it out there, Chris? Excellent. There you go, Brian.
All right. Last school year, one of my biggest projects I took on were the Medicaid duties. And one thing that I quickly learned is how much paperwork actually has to be filled out for each student that receives Medicaid billable services. Now, I was the only person doing this, so I had to find some way to be more efficient about going about this. Luckily, I do have a computer programming background, so I was able to write some computer programs that made these Medicaid processes much easier for one person to take on. Now, once I had done that, I had realized that these same skills can be applied to some of the duties in our office. If we could go to the first slide. So one of the big problems with our business office and the district office as a whole are there's a lot of time-consuming processes that consist of manual data entry, lots of paperwork, and it leads to inefficient communication and limited accessibility to some of these resources. If we could go to the next slide. What automation is essentially the use of technology to automate repetitive and time-consuming tasks, reduces paperwork, increases efficiency, it improves the accuracy of the data that's going into your systems, and it has faster processing times. If we go to the next slide. Here's a few of the active workflow automations that we currently have in the district. We've set up a SPED recommendation program that's been particularly helpful to Stacy in our business office. This helps her basically stay on the same page with the Syndra with all of the recommendations that are coming in, and it improves the communication between the two of them so we know where everyone's at in that recommendation process. you may have read in my board reports, we've overhauled the Medicaid system with a lot of automations. The other thing is we have contractor hours that are logged automatically and calculated for Danielle. We have records request forms now that the public can fill out that's automated, as well as some conversation loggers. And the main one I want to focus on today is our evaluation program. We have an evaluation program that's for completing these evaluations in a digital way. It's currently running with the athletics department, the SPED department, and we're looking to get transportation up and running soon. If we could go to the next slide, I can break down what these are all about. So essentially beforehand, when you fill out an evaluation, they were a paper copy that looked a lot like the one on the right. Now these types of things had to be emailed, printed, signed, rescanned in, and sent to the next signing party. What this does here is this is actually one digital form. So Gary Mattingly has this for the head coaches and sponsors. He goes to this link. There's a form with all the questions that these assistant coaches and sponsors would be evaluated on, and they can fill that out there. From there, it puts it all on the document to the right. It emails the 3 people that need to sign automatically, and once they sign, it's automatically stored in a central repository. Beforehand, this could get messy, and it could lead to these getting overlooked because it was inconvenient, required faxing over, sending, scanning, and all of that. This has been a lot more efficient. We've currently completed 35 evaluations using this program. If we go to the next slide. Some of the benefits are accessibility, first of all. It's much easier to get these out to the people who need to sign them and get that process done when it goes to everyone's emails rather than one printed form. The other thing is, if we need to see these evaluations in the future, it's automatically filed in a very organized way in the business office's digital repository. It also reduces a ton of labor. Like I said, no need to email, scan, anything like that. And obviously reduced paperwork. It is 100% digital. Next slide, please. Some of the future automation processes we're going to be looking for are a MacBook purchase form for employees that are exiting and are interested in purchasing a MacBook, as well as a official complaint logging form, and as well as admin and director exit surveys. With that, I'll yield the rest of my time to any questions you may have.
I do have one question, Brian, and that was about just safety, especially for the coaching. I didn't see safety in there, and I know it sometimes it's overlooked, but just the proper conditioning or just safety, weather and that kind of thing. So I don't know, it might be something to consider to kind of weave into there.
Oh, as far as the actual evaluation?
Yes.
Yeah, and I didn't have any control over the actual questions. I understand those might have to be approved, but I'm more than open to changing any of these programs upon request.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Yep,
Thanks
thank
for
you.
your work.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Thank you.
Now we're moving on to 3.3, DLT FastBridge winter scores with Miles Azah and the DLT committee.
Yep, he's going to connect over here, I believe. You're going to connect, right? Yeah, I've got it. There we go. Oh, I got it.
If any DLT members that are going to be presenting with me want to make your way up here, it's a bit crowded. Thank you guys.
There you go, Mom.
Thank you. Thank you, Becca. Yes, I cleared the room rather. Wow, the amount of people leaving is a little disheartening.
Way to go, Miles.
I know. I swear it's important, guys. It's just test scores. All right.
It is it's important though.
All right.
Hold on one second. Chris, what I'm going to do on here is follow through as he clicks through, so good to go.
Good to go? All right. First and foremost, thank you very much for your time. Thank you all for coming out. We, a couple meetings ago, or I'm sorry, I think it was actually earlier on this semester, the board asked to add to the life cycle a little more information on FastBridge, specifically after we've had screening windows and the work that we do and whether or not we hit our goals. So we're essentially doing that today. If you look up at the board, I've got an outcome and objective, almost a roadmap, if you will, of what we'll be doing today. So a quick revisit overview of FastBridge. We had a work session where I went through all the assessments and the criteria and what they're all about, essentially. But this will just be a quick spiral back to that. We'll present data for each building, specifically the goals that we had for Tier 1 and whether or not we hit said goals. We'll explain work taking place in buildings to improve. Great information about growth report resource that we have. And then we received a few questions from the board, and we'll answer those at the end, just so you know that we're all on the same page. So quick bit of FastBridge overview. And actually, before we jump into this, I do want to explain, I've said this before, way too many acronyms in this field. We have a district leadership team. Many of them are behind me right now, my crew, if you will. And the district leadership team's job is to get together and talk about things, obviously, that happen as a district, and then take that back to our buildings, which are called our building leadership teams, BLT. And then that works its way down to the PLCs. This is called a self-correcting feedback loop to make sure that we're continuously talking, we're in the same, we're always covering the same things, and nothing is slipping through the cracks when it comes to communication. The MTSS group, multi-tiered system of support group, really delves into this data. So DLT will look at what the goals are and whether or not we hit them as a building, but MTS will really dig in and say, what's going on, what else do we need to do when it comes to intervention? What other things are working, or what things can we try to move the needle? And then, like I said, the last one is the PLCs. That's the teachers themselves getting together in their core content. So I wanted you to understand that we give the screener 3 times a year, but we actually meet every other month for DLT, and then we meet 3 times a year, like I said, for MTSS. And we do that right after the screening window, which happens in the fall, the winter, and the spring. So today, like I said, we're going to be mainly focusing on the winter window that just passed, what our goals were, and what we're doing to improve those scores. The FastBridge benchmarks, you can look up here, are scores that indicate the student risk of performing below a future, usually the end of year performance target. They define this as 2 or 3 benchmark cut scores for each assessment in each season and grade, resulting in 3 or 4 levels of at risk. And I put this on here, and board, I gave these papers out to you, so you don't have to keep referring back to this slide. You'll have it in front of you. These are essentially our Tier 1 and 2, as you can see. Tier 1 is what you want, and our goal is 80%. Obviously, we want 100%. But as you can see right here, we've got Tier 1, which would fall in that 40 and 99th percentile. Tier 2 is the 15 to 39 percentile, and the high risk of Tier 3, this is where we try to have as much one-on-one support during intervention with students, is below the 15th percentile. For some of the tests, A reading, A math, and CBM reading, they actually break up the low risk categories of the Tier 1 into advanced, which is 71 to 99, and low risk, which is 40 to 70th percentile. All right, so having said all that, I'm going to actually give the microphone to each building, and we'll just work our way up from elementary up to high school. And then, like I said, at the end, we'll bring it all back together with the questions from the board. So elementary.
So these are our elementary scores, and what is super exciting is that for the first time ever, we met or exceeded all of our winter benchmark goals in early math or A math. So we are super, super excited about that. We've also had an opportunity to take a look at reading and see how we can progress to ensure that we're achieving the same level of success. And I have our instructional coach with me, as well as Holly Kane, our lead interventionist, and they'll provide a little more specific information about what we're doing to ensure that we get there with our Tier 1 in reading as well.
Good evening. I'm going to share with you the information about our core reading instruction, which is our Tier 1 instruction, the instruction that happens in the gen ed classroom. So some of the things that we've looked at this year is we have had a focus on structured literacy for several years now, following compliance with the state of Kansas. And some of the pieces from that component are you have to have explicit, systematic, and sequential literacy instruction. And so we do have core resources that are aligned with that particular components. And the other things we've also implemented is looking at our core instruction, we also recognized that we needed to have additional phonological and phonemic awareness instruction, which is when we implemented Heggerty last year. We've had tremendous success with Heggerty. We use it in both the Tier 1 instruction in the gen ed classroom, and we also use it in intervention. We also implemented high-frequency word routines this year, just this past fall, with our K2 classrooms, and we're finding that that's had quite a bit of success as well. Just having that repeated, explicit interaction with the students and learning and using their decoding skills to practice the high-frequency words, which we know is the proper way to teach that instruction. And I'm gonna lead into Holly Kane, who will talk a little bit more about our MTSS.
So the students who flag on the screeners are then given some diagnostic assessments at our grade levels. It's the PAST test and the QPS, which is the phonics screener. And we use the results of those assessments to place kids with other students who are missing the same skills. And then we have a team approach. So during the intervention time, there are interventionists, there are special education staff members, the classroom teachers, and then also instructional aides that are each assigned a group and meeting the lowest numbers. The kids who are struggling the most have the smallest groups, and those kids are given instruction on exactly the skills that they're missing in that phonics continuum. And there are between 15 and 20 groups meeting at every intervention time, so we're really able to differentiate for each unique need for each student. And then the interventionists are tracking their progress and their response to intervention on a weekly basis by looking at the progress monitoring data and problem solving with teachers to work through if kids aren't responding to those interventions.
And then the last piece we wanted to highlight is that we've also implemented a new behavior intervention support team program, and that's in an effort to ensure we're maximizing our Tier 1 instructional time. And I'll hand it over to LIS.
Just gonna jump in. Yes. Round of applause for the elementary school. One last thing I wanted to say about the elementary school and intermediates also taking advantage of this. The state of Kansas has offered letters training, which is all about the science of reading for free if we wanted to take advantage. So I put in a request for that, and we have both instructional coaches, multiple interventionists and teachers taking advantage of that this year, and we'll be doing the same next year. So this stuff that you're seeing here, we're trying to make build capacity within our buildings so that we can make sure that we continue this science of reading, that will ultimately impact our students' ability to do well, not only in assessments, but with reading in general. So intermediate school, you're up.
All right, good evening. So as we look at some of our stuff, our intermediate school, we're just 4th and 5th grade, so it's they're in, they're out, they're in pretty fast. So some of the stuff we saw, one of the things we're going to do too is while we're happy with the growth that we've seen, I think there's also something that Caroline Reynolds, our instructional coach, and I sat down, and one of the things we want to look at is, you know, we want to set high goals, we have high expectations for our students. We also want to make sure that these goals are reachable. So some of the stuff, I think on some of these, our goals, we're probably a little lofty, but we're very happy with the progress we've made. We've said at our school that we're not using some of that instructional and learning time lost through COVID as an excuse. We need to push through that and make sure that we're seeing growth regardless of how students were impacted in the past. Teachers, I'm not going to go through and necessarily talk about everything with MTSS like the elementary did, because a lot of the stuff that we do, the way they do MTSS groups interventions are identical to us. So some of the stuff I will talk about that, you know, we started doing pride time intervention groups, which is also to kind of hit some of those gaps, the students that need that. We've implemented some new instructional strategies, Kagan strategies, which really focus on students having to learn on their own, share that learning with their peers. And so when they present it or they talk to the class, they're doing it after talking with their peers, getting feedback from them. It encourages teamwork. It encourages even, you know, speaking in front of the class and being comfortable speaking in front of others, which, as most people know, is usually something everyone dreads. We've also looked at high-impact instructional strategies. So a lot of what we want to do is not reinvent the wheel. Like there are tried and true instructional strategies that research has shown for decades that work. So let's take some of those strategies, let's refine them, let's make sure our teachers get training on how to do those things better and kind of maximize learning that way. We also do DIRT time, which is daily independent reading time. And one of the things I've always wondered is, we always talk about ways to improve reading. Well, and I'm sure Miles would agree, why not? Reading is one of the best ways to get better at reading. I know that's not rocket science, but we spend about 15, 20 minutes a day. The students are quiet in their classrooms, they read. It's great, just students down. And the big part about it is the reading about things that they choose. It's student choice. So I think that's huge. And from the feedback I've gotten from students that are doing it, they love it. It's just a break in their day. It's a time to calm down and just kind of focus on something that they enjoy and to improve reading. And then this year at the intermediate school, we changed out computers for STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. So it's just a way to augment our science curriculum, kind of provide some enrichment that we might not normally have time for. And once again, the feedback we've gotten from staff, students, and parents is that they really enjoy it. The students have fun. When I go down there, generally the students are always having a good time and they want to show off what they're learning. So, and that's all I got.
Good job, intermediate school. We've recently, it's in my board report, we recently went through our accreditation cycle. This is year 5. Our OVT, the outside visitation team, another acronym, came to visit us and lauded us, a lot of respect for what we were doing and gave us a lot of kudos for the things we're doing specifically with MTSS and specifically trying to make sure that we're meeting the needs of all students at all times. One thing that we're going to add to the life cycle, or excuse me, the next cycle is a little bit more in-depth training on FastBridge itself. I think that we had that to begin with, but it's natural, especially with turnover, that it would probably be best to go back to it and kind of understand a little bit more specifically some of those growth goals that we put down. 5% is what you're looking for after an entire year of learning. So to say that we're trying to get 8% maybe in one window isn't the most attainable or appropriate one. We want to take the lead from FastBridge of what they think would be an appropriate goal based on our scores. Next is going to be the middle school.
Almost knocked you down, I'm sorry. Okay. Up here you can see our scores, and we set goals for what Miles just talked about in terms of growth during a year. We looked at 4% being statistically significant, so we set for an entire year. So we set a 2% growth for fall to winter for our scores. And you can see that we reached that in 4 out of 6, if I remember correctly. Looking up there, we're very proud of the scores that we got this go round for the winter. We did do some things differently in preparation for FastBridge testing in this school year. And I'll let Ms. Shealy, who is our reading interventionist, talk about some of those specifics here.
So we have really worked hard with our students. One of the things we started a couple of years ago and everyone has jumped on is to have the students set a goal for themselves. Because if they know what their goal is and what they want to reach, it gives them a little more effort to try and reach that goal. Some of the things we've been doing is starting silent reading within our classroom also, not calling it DIRT, but same thing. And 6-minute solution, we've worked on that for several years now with building fluency within our students. All of the core subject areas do the fluency reading. We take turns weekly doing that, and we are seeing great growth with our students in that. We've also been doing Think, Pair, Share, and several other things. When we got ready to do our winter testing, Miss Bishop at the PE instruction gave us some brain break movements to do with the kids to stimulate their brain some more, so they've enjoyed that. We did actual retesting opportunities for some students who didn't feel like they did as well as they could have the first time. And one of the things Ms. Peters and I have worked on is the students we work with in our tier classes, we tested them actually in our tier classes where it was in a smaller environment and they felt a little more comfortable not seeing the other kids finish quickly or whatnot. We also took several days to take the test. We didn't do the whole test in one time period, which also again gave them a little more confidence in what they were doing. And we continue every day to differentiate with our instruction for all of our students at the middle school level.
All right. Thank you, middle school. Before we go into high school, just going to bring up one other thing that we've been working on. You've heard many times all of us talking about the GVC, a guaranteed and viable curriculum. One reason that we want to have that guaranteed and viable curriculum is if we make sure we're hitting the appropriate standards at every level, we increase the chance of students getting not only access to any of the standards that they need, but increases the chance of them doing well at the next level, which ultimately will help with our assessment scores. So last one is the high school.
The goal we have for each of those tier 1 categories is 80%. That is considered reaching our potential. So if you notice throughout the years, you see the scores go higher and higher and higher. Luckily for me, I get to celebrate at the top of the list. They've had starting in, thank you, early childhood all the way up. So it makes us look really good at the high school when our numbers are so high. That's because every person in the room got to put a hand in that. Shout out though to English teachers in the room. See you, math teachers. Yeah. It is really hard to, at the high school level, when you have so many different types of courses, to make sure kids are getting the opportunity to read and do math. And those teachers are tracking down kids. They're spending time way outside their duty day to make sure that happens. So it's a testament to the scores you're seeing. If you notice in winter goal for 11th and 12th grade, it just says maintain. That's because 80% is the goal in the MTSS structure, and we're already there. Notice we still did raise it a little bit. Same thing for math. We did set a goal. We were pretty aggressive. 4% growth is an entire school year's worth of growth. We did it in a semester. So if you're seeing 4%, that's about a year's worth of growth. Yeah. The tricky thing about these numbers is you're like, just raise them. Well, there's over 171,000 in Oxford Dictionary, and you need to know over 10,000 of them to be able to just communicate in English. So imagine a kid who has an identified exceptionality, who is learning English as their second language. To pick up 10,000 words, we can't just click our fingers and the numbers get better. So it is work from pre-K all the way to 12th grade. So I do want to point that out. Same thing for math. The same part of your brain that processes letters and words processes numbers and symbols. The better you read, the better you are at math. Those go in tandem. So as our students read better, their math scores will go up too. And all those reasoning things. Just to highlight our 3 main focuses at the high school. 1, we are doing better at professional development centered around data. It is a little bit of a sense of pride when I sat with my teammates and the PE teacher, saw you, Jackie, back there. Yeah, Jackie's looking at scores right next to the interventionist, next to the science teacher, next to the band director, next to everyone, and we're all owning those scores. It's not one person's score, we all own those scores. So our professional development was not just knowing the score and what it means, but digging into who is getting the low score, who's getting the high score, and are we enriching everyone between low and high. So we talked about some strategies, we'll continue to do that. It's just going to be an ongoing way we do business. The second thing, we got a little smarter at the high school, and I don't know why it took us so long, but it sure did. We let students know what the goal is. And if you notice, we jumped up a lot when we did that. They're pretty smart if you were listening to them, and they probably read better than I do if you tested me too. So when they knew what their score was and what their goal was, wow, it got a lot better. So we've done that across the district and letting students know their score and what the target is. When they know the score, they'll get us there. They're pretty great like that. The last thing is that it's in all caps, guaranteed. And you're going to hear a little bit about grading, and there's some questions, but when you guarantee that a student learns something, that means something. You don't get to just teach the lesson and go on, and it's easy as a teacher to think, boy, that was a lesson of my life. And then you come back the next day and no one knows what you're talking about. We all have those moments sometimes, but I will say that to guarantee that they learn it is the next level, and to keep spiraling back. In our freshman math classes, they have a standards-based grading. They're making sure that kids learn it. That goes in geometry, they're retaking tests, they're relearning. In Algebra 2, they're redoing standards quizzes. When I see those poor English teachers and all the revisions and all the writing, and I see vocabulary in PE and it's across our building. So I think guaranteeing that we're making sure that kids have the opportunity to learn at their level is where the real work is, and that's what we're gonna keep pushing. So really proud of everyone. Thanks for making the high school and our students the best they can be, because it was everybody's effort for sure.
One of our fantastic instructional coaches is going to come up and talk a little bit about some other ways that we're able to improve our scores and really dig into the data. But I want one more round of applause for this group and all of our teachers for how much they dug in themselves in the data to try to improve. Like, some of the work that we've been doing as a district, and not some of, a lot of the work that we've been doing as a district is kind of scary even for teachers, really digging in and looking at my data. Like, how did I do? Did I grow, especially compared to another teacher's data? Or really digging into those standards to make the guaranteed and viable curriculum and make sure we have that alignment. And the staff has been fantastic with understanding the need and understanding the value and making sure to roll up our sleeves and do that work, and I'm super proud of them for it. Caroline's gonna come up and speak a little bit about what else we do to improve those scores.
So another layer of that we go through and look at is not only our screening data, but looking at growth. So we talked a little bit about what it means to set a goal and to make goals achievable. But FastBridge also gives our percentage of growth that students have made. So just because a student maybe is in tier 3 or tier 2 doesn't mean they're not making improvements as we go along. So we're here to celebrate the amazing tier 1 numbers we have, but also to look at where our lower students have also made some achievements along the way. One of the processes that we go through, and I'm sorry again that this slide has a lot of those acronyms on it, is that our building leadership teams take our screening data and they look at not only where every student fell, but where every student started and where they ended. We do that in the winter, looking fall to winter, and then we do that again in the spring, going from spring to winter and fall to spring for an entire year's growth. As a PLC, which is our individual grade level groups of teachers, they also look at each individual student's data and they write their own personal goals based off of what their students did. So every teacher is looking at what kiddos they have on a daily basis and setting personal goals for what they can achieve in their classroom, which students are in each of those tiers, in ways that they can impact those individual students to make those scores go up. As a district leadership team, we kind of take all of those reports and look through them, mainly looking at those growth reports to see maybe we didn't hit what our goal was. Obviously, it's 80%. That's where we would like all students, but are our efforts making an impact? Because if we're not making an impact with our efforts, then we need to look and shift on what we're doing. And so we look at the percentage of growth being typical or aggressive. That is the two terms that FastBridge uses. So the next slide, I'm going to show you what one of those graphs could possibly look like. So this is a snapshot of a couple of our assessments from fall to winter here in Lansing. This isn't a comprehensive overview of every subtest that we take, but one of the big tests that we take K through 5 is the CBM reading assessment. And as you can see there, the majority of our students fall in that typical or aggressive growth, which is where we want them. Modest growth is still okay growth. What we are looking to avoid is any kind of flat growth, meaning the students aren't progressing. The next one is our A reading scores, and that would be focused more through second grade through high school. That is their silent reading comprehension. And then our last graph here is our A math, which would include some first grade all the way through.
Thank you, Caroline. Don't want her to be left out with the clapping, so you deserve applause too. All right, so we had some questions from the board that were sent to us. One had to do with FastBridge, like correlation with other assessments, an MTSS student support structure question, and then a grade card question. So I'm going to let Christine Hoverson come up and talk about the first couple.
I love the math. I'll try to keep it a little simpler though, because I could stand up here and talk all day. So the first question that was presented was, what's the correlation between FastBridge and the state assessment scores? Great question. We get that question a lot. There's not a direct correlation, like 100% correlation, because they're different tests. They test different things. So your local assessment, which is nationally normed, that's what we use FastBridge for. It is immediate response. Not only is it immediate response, it helps us disaggregate where our need is. It's also an adaptive test when you screen. So if I'm a student taking that test and I get questions right, the questions get harder. When I get it wrong, it gets lower. So what happens is you kind of get jumping back and forth until you get about your middle, where your average is. We can also look at those tests and break down where a student fits in a grade level. So by the time they get to high school, I can look at a student's FastBridge score and say, okay, there's holes or gaps in their learning in about 4th grade or 6th grade or wherever that hole is. Then I can do a little bit more digging and figure out exactly what it is that they don't know. If I was to use the state assessment, I'd have to wait 6 or 8 months to get that. I just need to wait 6 or 8 seconds with FastBridge. So it's our real-time data that we're using to adjust curriculum, to make instructional decisions. It's our local assessment. The state assessment is more of a summative assessment. It's assessing grade level standards. So when it says 11th grade takes the test, it's testing 10th grade. It's testing the 9th and 10th grade band of standards. So it's actually testing the content knowledge of that student. FastBridge isn't testing the content knowledge per se, it's testing an overall broad scope of what that student might know so we can place them in an appropriate grade level. So they're testing very different things. That being said, there are some parallels. So if you have a student scoring in that college pathway, that advanced, you're almost guaranteed a 3 or 4 on the state assessment because they're functioning above their grade level peers. If you're looking at a student that's on grade level, considered functioning at grade level with their peers, you're almost guaranteed to have a 2, 3, 4. So they're going to fall in there somewhere depending on what grab of questions that they get. The state assessment is not adaptive. It pulls from a pool. So it's a little bit different. So depending on how that student relates to those specific draw of questions, they're going to probably score a 2, 3, or 4. If they're in that tier 2 or tier 3, that subgroup, those subgroups that we're working on, yes, those are the students most at risk for scoring basic. That's why we're intervening so hard with that group, is because we're trying to have a shot to get them closer to their grade level so when they do take that very summative state assessment, they can score better. What we're seeing with FastBridge is as we disaggregate things, the next 5-year accreditation cycle, we need to look at some of those subgroups, meaning special education students, low SES students, students of color. There's some subgroups of students that we want to make sure that our curriculum is accessible to all of those students. So as we talk about the next 5 years of accreditation, that's going to be the work that teachers are doing to help those groups of kids to make sure that those scores and that they're getting access to our curriculum. So while there's not a direct correlation, they do inform our decisions and they are kind of helping us target the students that need extra support. What happens a lot of times is like parallel lines. If a student's sitting in a class and they're already behind, they run parallel to what they should learn. Sometimes it goes down the other way. If we don't intervene with the student, then we don't have a chance of catching that student back up to where they should be. We call that closing the achievement gap. So the goal of intervention and some of those student supports that we're talking about, it's kind of a team approach. So you've got the classroom teacher who's going to differentiate the lesson and continue to move students along. Here's the thing, we have gifted students sitting in the audience, really. But we have gifted students that need to be pushed and need to have access to enrichment. They need to keep going. We can't stop a classroom because some kids are struggling because we can't punish the top end of students either. So as that classroom teacher continues to differentiate, the elementary does a great job, intermediate of stations and moving kids around to what they need, we're going to continue to move kids forward. We also can't leave a kid behind that has an identified exceptionality or just moved here or was sick for 6 months and then came back to school, and all the reasons that a student could struggle or get behind. So then come your interventionists in to help try to close that gap. They're going to put in a little bit of extra time with those kids that are not functioning at grade level. The teacher has to keep moving us towards those standards, or you're going to see a dip in our state assessment scores. It's going to continue to go down if teachers don't keep teaching those standards. The interventionist is providing support to get those kids, while they're still getting regular curriculum, we're filling in some of those gaps. Then come your instructional coaches. Your instructional coaches are helping both of those groups as they build in lessons and materials. When you have all these different groups, it's really hard to manage what each kid needs. You heard Holly talk about how it's down to the phonemic sounds. The groups, they're grouping them by phonemic sounds. Like, holy moly, somebody's got to help sort all that out. So you have instructional coaches that are coming in and getting the materials in order and making sure teachers have what they need and moving kids around. And it really is a comprehensive system. All of your teachers that are teaching electives, oh, by the way, they're teaching reading too. And if you talk to anyone in here, they're going to say, yes, we teach reading in my classroom. So it takes a very comprehensive system with all the supports to do our very best to get kids access to the material they need. So it is kind of I saw you like crocheting, knitting there, and it's kind of what it feels like. It takes all of us, and it does take a combination. So I hope I answered your question about tests and how all those pieces fit together. If you want more data, boy, I'll give it to you. I kind of like it. So, but it is a team effort. So I think if you hear nothing else, parents in the room, I didn't mention this earlier, but you're on the team too. You're reading at home. You're asking your kids to go and order your own McDonald's. You can do it. And they're like, I don't want to. All those things help. All that reasoning and all those things help. So it really is a team and a community effort. So, but we're really proud of it. We're getting there.
Totally interrupt. Miles was talking about how some of us are doing letters training, and in my letters training, I just learned that the screeners actually intentionally over-identify students who may be at risk of not meeting those summative assessments, and so that we can catch every kid who may not meet benchmark on the state assessment. So when you see numbers, especially at the lower grades, that are kids that are showing that they're at risk, that's an intentional design to provide those early interventions so that they don't get behind as they progress through the grades.
Keep making us look good. You're doing a great job.
Yeah. Bravo. My favorite part of all that was my instructional coaches back here giggling with each other because they learned that today in your letters training. So good job that they learned that today. All right. Well, one more time, round of applause for all that. Standing O. Thank you. All right, and then we'll finish up with a grade card question. I'll bring the elementary. Just a quick background on this one. Elementary, we embarked on this last year. We rolled it out this year to switch to a standards-based grade card. Starting K2 was already pretty much doing it. We just wanted to align and make it a little more uniform. 3, 4, 5 was simply giving a letter grade. And while it's okay to have a letter grade, at that age, especially with what we were just talking about, that's when we need to know where the gaps are. And sometimes just saying a C is not enough, right? So we'll talk a little bit about that at the elementary level.
You said what I was going to say.
Sorry.
That's okay. So just kind of give you a background, we did start this process over a year ago. And one of the first things we did was we looked at other districts in the state of Kansas that also do standards-based grading. So we kind of followed their model of what the grade card or report card looks like. So the ICANN statements, how they generalized those and consolidated them, because there's a lot of standards for the state of Kansas, and we needed to consolidate them. We also had to establish our grading scale, if you wish. So we had conversations as an instructional team. We also looked at, like I said, we looked at the model that the other districts from the state of Kansas did as well. And then we had conversations with our teachers and our staff, and that received their input as well. So For K-5, we have plus, equals, and minus. And so a plus would be a student who can do something without any support. They completely can complete the activity or standard without any support. So an equals would be a student who, I can do this with some support. I am successful, but I might need some support. And then finally, the minus is, I can do this, but I need a lot of support. So we tried to keep it positive, and I'm going to let Martin give a little bit more information about how we rolled that out with parents and how successful it's been.
Yeah, I know when we first rolled it out, there were a lot of questions. And I think we found a way to kind of clearly put that out to parents and community members. I know there's some frustration, like taking away grades, and I know myself, like that's how things were, you know, when I went through school. But one of the things, like kind of how we explained it to them is, you know, like back when I went to elementary school, we had like S minus, S plus. So really, like it's not that much different as far as that. The only difference is, like a lot of times when you have a grade is an aggregate of the skills that led to that. So all we've really done is, instead of putting that aggregate on there, we're actually showing what specific skill, you know, the students are lacking or have that got us to that point where the, you know, the grades used to be for A, B, C, and D, and so on. So a lot of that, and the nice thing is, you know, using some of our systems, we can really easily identify through data where those skills are lacking, and not just through data, but also teacher observation in the classroom and some combination of that. So I know at LIS, we put some of that information in fall conferences. I would put that information out through newsletters and also through Skyward. We use some visual aids to kind of help that. So, you know, once that was explained, and we still had some additional questions, you know, I'd say after about a month, people that had questions had answers to them. So we're pretty happy with that. And before I stop this, I just want to say a shout out to all of you that stayed here. I know for many of you, it might not have been what brought you here, but might not be as exciting as what you're doing 24 hours ago, which maybe for me was pacing around where I was hoping the Chiefs would come back. But I will say that what you see there in the data and the stuff you've done is a lot of blood, sweat, and tears of educators through the years. And I just, you know, it's extremely important as well. So thank you for staying and listening.
Final thing I'm going to say, we just went through our accreditation cycle. I brought up before, our OVT and outside visitation team came, signed off on it. They're going to represent us well, hopefully with the ARC. But during that, and also I go to monthly with Martin and Allen to a Greenbush district meeting, I found out that a lot of districts, most districts, do not run their DLTs the same way we run our district leadership team. A lot of districts, our size, if not larger, their district leadership team consists of maybe a couple principals, rarely any teachers, and maybe an assistant superintendent. We have 18 people on our district leadership team. From all buildings are represented: teachers, counselors, interventionists, administrators. And because of that, we're able to show, and I think that even if you didn't come tonight for this, you came for this, but even if you didn't, I think you can definitely see that we have hardworking individuals, and we've put together a system. And I have to really say, as a new person here, I might be at the front of this, but this is just my second year. And this KESA cycle has really showed that we have tightened up this system. And by tightening up the system, we're going to be able to catch those kids before they slip through the cracks. So one more round of applause for our district leadership team. And with that, we're finished, unless, yeah.
Of course I
Yeah,
did.
you're
Thank
fine.
you so much. I love the collaboration. I love that you're doing all this, but I do want to talk about ION, because you were so excited about it.
Yes,
about a year
absolutely.
ago. And how is that used by these, this collaborative group?
So we're still in the early stages of ION, about being trained for ION. I had given this answer before via email, so not during this one, I apologize. ION is a data warehouse. Essentially, you know, we talked about FastBridge. That's just one aspect of education and assessment, because we have to know like grades, behavior, and attendance. All of these play a role in whether or not a student is learning. So right now, what we end up having to do is make, you know, click 50 times to find out how a student is doing on an assessment or how they did an assessment a few years ago. ION is going to help us to have it all in one place on a dashboard for students that you can see their last 5 test windows, their grades, specifically since we're doing the standards-based grading, like how they've been doing with the plus minus equal system. But this is our first year. So with the help of Brian and many people, we're really still trying to work through the kinks of like Skyward working well with it, but we have a training on February 22nd, and we're starting a group called the Power Group is what it's going to be. And these are going to be like our ION Power Group supporters that learn everything about it. At that point, I'd be more than happy to either have them or someone from ION come and give it a presentation. But ION will help make everything much smoother, to answer your question, but I don't want to show off anything until it's really up and running. Is that it? Thanks, guys.
Thanks again, Miles, and everyone on the DLT committee that came up and spoke tonight. We appreciate all your time and effort you put in for the kids of the district. With that, we will move to 4.1, district financial information.
John, y'all had posted these on. I didn't know if you had any additional questions or just our monthly where we're at.
Does anybody have any questions on the financials? Okay, we'll move on to department reports.
I do want to say to the business office, this was an excellent report. It was extremely informative, and I thank you for that. I did have a couple questions. The inventory management, I appreciate the paragraph that explains and that they came and it was successful. They got through that. And then this summer, you actually say inventory management during summer with the addition of furniture and technology will be a significant challenge. Could that be part-time hires that you just hire for a couple weeks or something? Okay.
Furniture is moved out, and then it's moved back in, and I think any elementary teachers can probably say that sometimes you don't get your correct stuff back in. So that's just something that we'll have to work with Diana and the custodial staff.
Okay. I also appreciate the district office meetings that you have after each of our school board meetings, and kind of the world that I come from. It sounds like you're talking about what you're going to talk about and what you heard the night before, specific tasks and implied tasks. And I think that that's awesome. And because some things are very literal, but some things you say, wow, cause and effect. What do I need to look down the road a couple weeks or months?
Some of the people in our office, they're not at the meetings, they might be watching.
Sure.
Listening, but with the teamwork on our part is to say who's going to do what, because sometimes I'm like, I just saw that and thinking, no.
Right, exactly. And then down at the bottom of this page, I think page 3 that you offered, I see the kind of the onboarding and the different pieces like that. In other companies, things that I've seen and observed, I think many of us have too, kind of the fine line, the fine print, the legal stuff is a part of the onboarding. Is that something that we can weave in? And
Yeah, we talked about that at the policy meeting.
Excellent.
So the Title IX and all that stuff that are signed off on.
Gotcha. So non-discriminatory, all of those titles and 504 and equal opportunity. That's excellent. So they will know what it is, and they will know if they are a teacher in the classroom, how to recognize it and observe and guide others and the students as well. And then inventory at district office. And I think I put this on Chris Fletcher's as well for technology, because it's such a huge piece. Your report was very informative too. I really appreciate that. But how will we ensure that we sustain inventory, and who will have that responsibility pinned on them at each of the building sites to track this? Because I think you've told me in the past that we have had inventories, but then they just kind of dissipate and kind of peter out. How will we keep this robust and keep it accountable?
I think that's a process I'm going to have to look at and how that, I think that's one of the pieces in the responsibility of that process.
Okay.
So work in progress. Yeah,
All
work
right.
in progress, okay.
If you have these questions, I will respond to them.
Awesome.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, super. All right. Okay, thank you so much.
Any other questions? Move on to curriculum and instruction, 6.1 administrative reports.
I found the administrative reports were excellent, very informative. I appreciate it. The format was very clear that obviously was implemented, Miles and Dan. They were really good. So I know that those you probably use to reach out to your different schools and the parents and all stakeholders, but it was very informative to read and I appreciate that. The new format seems to be just really working and making things raise to the top. With the site council reports, they were excellent too. They were detailed, they were well done, and I hope that this isn't just an annual report, but we really try to forge a relationship between the Board of Education and the site councils. We need to do that. I've seen a need for 17 years that we really don't have, and I think that maybe we've got fresh energy, and hopefully we can, because it sounds like your site councils are very active and very intentional. Thank you.
Anyone else have anything on administrative reports or site council reports? Okay, we'll move on to new Board of Education business. 7.1 LHS Theater Troupe 880 fundraiser request.
This was a fundraiser request through our theater troupe to Jeff and myself, asking to be able to raise some additional funds.
Do you need a motion for that?
If we could, that would be great.
I make a motion to allow LHS Theater Group Troupe 880 fundraise additionally this year.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed 7-0.
I'm not sure it's buddy. No, I bet you that one is.
Okay, 7.2 curriculum pilot.
This was brought to us from our LHS Family Consumer Science to pilot the Kansas Personal Responsibility Education Program. I'd sent this to you probably a month ago, right? It was brought right before the last board meeting, so I'd sent that out in our end of the week. And they would like permission to pilot this. It would be free for 2 years, and then at that point in time, we can make a decision on if we want to continue with that. All of that information is there. There were a couple questions this afternoon that I was able to answer, and we do have a one-time use login for the next 30 days if you'd like to look at that. Additionally, specific lessons, you can schedule a time and we can come in and you can look through that. As with most curriculums at this point in time, they are electronic in nature. But this was brought to us from Shannon Long and from Stephanie Phillips. I have to have board approval in order for them to be able to pilot the program. She said the lessons that she was looking to use most were lessons 1 through 7, and then it was also, that was down below, 9 and 10, wasn't that it? So relationships today, all the way 1 through 7, and then numbers 9 and number 10. So.
Was there a date that she needed that by?
I don't remember.
I didn't see that on there either.
So.
Yeah, I'd like to be able to look at it just a little bit more.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do appreciate the answers to the questions that I received. I looked at the sections that, when you got back to me on that and mentioned that, and as long as we adhere with, for myself, I'm okay with it as long as we adhere with the new state legislation, the legal part, that we adhere to the survey portion where the parents need to opt in. There are quite a few surveys involved, I believe. So as long as they have that and that, so is in with that.
There was up above. I remember reading about the K-Prep, and the opt-in for parents. That was a large part of all of that, so.
But I'm okay with, I mean, I was just personally, I reviewed, what I reviewed, I was okay with.
And it does state that they have to have parent consent to participate, so I'm okay with approving it tonight, but I'm okay with waiting to look at the curriculum.
I think as long as we have the parents, they have to opt in, parents consent. Yeah.
I called the resource number that was on there today, and I talked with the point of contact, and she said that it's really only in Kansas schools in Oklahoma right now, but they're wanting to grow. They are kind of focusing on those FACS classrooms, and through the FCC-LA, and in Oklahoma and Kansas, they're hoping to grow. A lot of it is decision-making, goal setting, and basically the focus was rural communities. Ours is a little bit bigger, but anybody can benefit from goal setting and different things like that, learning about just healthy relationships. I did ask her kind of what the tie-in would be. If you're taking surveys and you're really revealing a lot of personal information, what is the responsibility of the school as far as Title IX, as far as the non-discriminatory environment? So there are those aspects to think about as well, because it again, it's supposed to be Midwest Evaluation, Social Innovation Laboratory is the lady I talked to, and they do different federal tests from CDC. This is Health and Human Services federal surveys that they will take, and they give incentives for surveys, like, hey, we'll give you a gift card for Sonic or something for completing the surveys. But if it's helping the students in positive decision making, I think that's good. And I like the first 2 years is free. I think the person I was talking to was even still looking at a grant for future years to keep it free. So that's good too.
Can we get a chance to look at the surveys, or is that
First one.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
I make a motion to approve the curriculum pilot as needed with parent consent form. How's that?
Could we say that we pilot it, maybe use those 2 years and then revisit before it rolls into something that we pay for?
I just meant for this year.
Oh, just 1 year?
Yes.
Oh, okay, 2 years.
While I'm approving it for right now, while it's free. If they want to bring it back to us when we have to pay for it, we'd have to approve it again as an expenditure.
Yeah, they have it, it's a 2-year program.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there a minimum number of students that have to participate?
That's a good question. No, some classes only have 40. Yeah, she told me that. Some schools only have 40 people.
I'd like to second the motion. Okay, sorry.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed 7-0. 7.3, 2023-2024 school calendar.
Thank you to all of the teachers and staff that served on our calendar committee. This is what we put forth tonight as a discussion topic. There are a few things that when we surveyed back out, it's an excellent opportunity. I think it addressed some of the concerns that we had last year. And with that, I'll leave it to your questions.
Come a long way from last year. It's a lot of detail.
I make a motion to approve calendar as presented.
I second.
A motion and a second. A motion and a second to approve the calendar as presented. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed 7-0. Okay, 7.4, KASB Superintendent Search Characteristics. And welcome Marcia Weissman.
Marcia, hit the red button on the, there you go.
So I have a lot for you tonight. First of all, I want to go over the results of your online survey and share that with you. And let you know that we had a lot of participation in our focus groups today, so there's a lot of information related to that to share. But let me give you each a copy of this. So you had a pretty good response rate, actually close to 3 times some recent response rates of similar districts. So I think that's always good information to take, regardless of the results, because it shows people want to have their voice heard, and this is another mechanism for that to happen. So of the people that responded, 19% were community members, and then 60% were parents. So those were your 2 largest groups. The next largest one was teachers, and then at 10%, and then about 7% were other employees. And so almost 4% were students. I also had, what did we say, 46 students in our group today. So we've had a lot of student voice in this process going forward. If you look at the next page of this document, you can see how long the respondents have been associated with the community. And so your largest category is people who have been associated with the district for more than, or for 4 to 10 years, and that's about 30%. And then the next largest was 28% at more than 20 years. So I know that as we talk to the groups, we know that there's kind of a juxtaposition or a dichotomy in your community of like military families who sometimes come for a shorter period of time, and then longer term residents. And so you can see that in your response rate in that 1 to 3 years, you've got a 13% response. So I feel like this reflects both parts of that dichotomy. Okay, if you go to page 3, that's where the specific questions related to characteristics of the new superintendent start. And I'm going to kind of walk you through an order, because this is literally hot off the press since we just closed this down at midnight Saturday night. So the highest priority, you know, is as we give a score to this, you know, how people who rank at their first choice, second choice, third choice. But the number 1 characteristic then is personal strength to do what's right, regardless of circumstances. Okay. The second highest is a kids first personality. I'm just going to go through the top 4 of these. Third is transparent. And then the 4th one is approachable. So I'll let you at your leisure look at the others, but that kind of gives you those top identified characteristics that people want. So on the next page, looking at the identified leadership qualities, the highest was proactive and forward thinker. Secondly was understands and recognizes diversity within the district. The third desired quality was community-oriented and involved in the community. And then the 4th was an innovative, creative, out-of-the-box thinker. So again, that gives you your top 4. Okay, then experiences that you want your next superintendent to bring. And so the highest One was previous superintendent experience. So that's very specific. And in our focus groups, when experience came up, I tried to push back a little bit to have them identify what kind of experience. In the online survey, it was pretty specific that it was actual superintendent experience that people were suggesting. Then second was experience with curriculum and instruction leadership. And then third was experience with business and operations of a school district. And then the fourth one was experience with diverse socioeconomic demographics. Okay, so that gives you that idea. Okay, then the next whole bunch of pages are comments that I'll let you read on your time. But I want you to go to the very last page then. And this is a question we asked in every focus group and is part of the summary that I'll give you. But if you had two similarly qualified candidates, what's the separating characteristic that would help you choose? Number one was honest, trustworthy, strong integrity. Number two was kids first, student-centered leader. So you see this aligns well with what they identified in the other part. Third was acknowledges and addresses issues related to diversity, ethnicity, socioeconomic, gender identification, and special needs, etc. And then fourth was the desire and ability to build relationships with all stakeholders. So I think that you will see as we go through this that there is consistency across stakeholder groups and across the mechanisms that we're looking at for input. So I'm going to give you a verbal report of the focus groups today, and then I will follow up with a written document. And everybody that was with me today knows why I look like I've been coloring Easter eggs. But what you will get in the written report that I'll send you later, you'll see everything that was brought up and then how it was prioritized. What I'm going to give you verbally now are some of these prioritized areas. I'm going to give you the real summary, and then I'm going to take you through some of the prioritized categories. Okay, so we had 6 groups, and so what I'm going to share with you first here is the one that's similar to the last thing that I read you, that separating quality. Okay, so when I start with at 8 a.m. this morning, we had our district office staff. So what I'm sharing with you now, realize there will be more in the document. These are the top priorities. So in that group, highest priority was business-minded, followed by relationship building, and then district office experience. Okay, then the administrative team, highest priority navigates a systems approach, is decisive, can have tough conversations in a timely way. Then interpersonal skills and is approachable. Then relationship building and building relationships between the Board of Education, administration, and the community. Next is positive visibility. And then of the prioritized top priorities, ensures clarity and alignment between goals and the strategic plan in all decisions. So then with our community member group, and some of them said they were going to be here. Are you here? If you were, okay. I see a couple people that were in that group this morning. So what was strongly prioritized more than the others was results-oriented, works personally and collectively to achieve goals and overcome obstacles. Then next, a strong passion for the classroom and considers the implications for the classroom and decision-making. And then invested in and appreciates Kansas and our local lifestyle. Okay, then our student group. So we lost a few over the process. So our number, I think, added up to less than 46. But I'm looking at some girls that were here, hoping they'll do the math for me. But so highest priority, and these tapered. There weren't dramatic differences in prioritize. They tapered more gently. So one was open-minded, nonpartisan. 2, eager to start the position and has a plan. I thought that was pretty intuitive from high school students to be thinking that far ahead. Advances inclusion. Now these 3 are tied up with the same priority. Advances inclusion, willing to listen and support teachers and students, and ability to compromise and benefit the majority of people. Then the next step down is can make hard decisions. And then of the prioritized ones, their personality, approachable and authentic. So then within our classified staff, now this again was a significantly highest priority, and then there's a gap with the next priorities, but has backbone to stand up with conviction to established plan. And then these are all tied of a lower priority, responsive with follow through and follow up to issues brought forward, successful demonstrated experience in a leadership role, has long-term aspirations for and with Lansing, is not a stepping stone. And then from outside of the district with no prior affiliations. So bringing in new objective perspective. Okay, then from the licensed staff, highest priority was clone Dan Wessel.
That's funny, Marcia. If you haven't seen the movie Multiplicity, I think we're already on 2 or 3.
Where's your goggles?
Okay, so now this next one, it's a high priority. You got to track the words, so focus as I say this, because there's a lot in here. Charismatic communicator who can explain things logically and appropriately for the intended audience in a way that motivates and unites while offering logical solutions. Did you get all those pieces? Okay, and then so a drop in priority superintendent experience, and then it ties also with leadership skills to lead the Board of Education and administrative team to maintain their appropriate roles. Okay, so there, once again, in all of these, there's a lot more. These are the highest priorities. Okay, so all of this that we did with them, we'll work through with you. Okay, so let me go back to some of these other categories. And once again, in the interest of time right now, I'm just giving you the highest priorities, not all of them. So from the district office, in terms of what are leadership and personal qualities, characteristics that you think the new superintendent will need to be effective. And these are in order: business-minded, leadership skills, can have tough conversations, is decisive, visionary and forward-thinking, follow-through, and collaborative with both internal and external community. Then from the administrative team, builds relationships with staff and the Board of Education, community and the Board of Education, so 2 pairings there. Can bridge an ever-widening gap. Then that was tied with skills to build systems and change in the structure of the district to provide standard operating procedures and move from a collection of parts that is heavy on autonomy to an effective system. Then knowledge of SPED funding. Then ability to retain the good people we have. We have the beginnings in place. People who come here often stay. And we heard that in representation in our focus groups today in terms of people who chose to retire here. And then knowledge of curriculum and instruction and provides instructional leadership. Okay, and then from the community members, okay, this I'm gonna grab people now to share these. So the highest priority ones, and these are all tied, transparent, then knowledge of business functions, a steward of district financial resources, understands finance and budget, and that also ties with apolitical, nonpartisan, objective with a local focus. For the students, listens and interacts with students was tied with a safe space for all inclusivity. And sorry, kids, I got that one wrong. Remember, way wrong, because these two were much, much higher. Sorry. Will combat censorship was one, closely followed by willing to roll up their sleeves and go in the trenches and do the work. Okay, then a good backbone and willing to advocate. Then what I just read about inclusivity and listens and interacts with students. Nonpartisan, values diversity, ability to think critically regarding policy, open-minded, supports mental health and safety for students and staff. So some of these I don't have the order exactly. Supports and respects teachers and encourages freedom of expression, including classroom display. Then from classified staff, strong leadership skills, approachable, leads, doesn't acquiesce, can lead change and avoid the status quo. Is a team builder, helps pull people together from different teams to work for common goals. Strong understanding of business operations and finance, experience as a superintendent or an assistant superintendent in a larger district. Approachable and is able to navigate strong differences of opinion with the Board of Education and staff. Then, and once again, these are not all of them, but the prioritized ones. So tied at top priority, which was significantly higher than the next priorities, was supporting all, and I was told capital A, capital L, put it in bold, etc. All students, all kids first to underlie all decision making. And understands the superintendent role to be able to stand up to a rogue Board of Education. Followed by experience in a comparable size district, and then an open, good communicator, and collaborates, does not cater to dominant opinions. Okay, so those were all the prioritized characteristics that they said they were looking for. Now, this question's a little more fun. What are the good things about the community and the district that you want your new superintendent to come in and appreciate, maintain, celebrate? So from the district office, that the community supports the district. We're small, but we're close to big city amenities. And we have a strategic plan in progress, which I just saw posted on your website and really ties into many things we heard today. So those were the prioritized ones. From the administration, there's SPED coordinators, the instructional coordinators, and the interventionists. So I think the report you just heard, I see where some of that was coming from. A supportive community, the PLCs that are district-wide, standardized MTSS protocol. So much of what we've heard tonight. Preserve the reasons that people have chosen to stay here. Great teacher leadership and voice. Administrative staff has a high emotional quotient and is open to needed change, and a solid system is in place with your district leadership team that you just heard. Then the community members' top things for the highest was that there's a focus on student success, followed by communication with parents and community is very good regarding daily activities, and then tied with great facilities and a pride in schools, both sports and academics. Okay, and then okay, so I'm going to do licensed staff next. So the highest was good administration across the district, followed by caring students who advocate for addressing wrongs, and then tied database decision-making and curriculum. Okay, that the district or the director of teaching and learning is outstanding, provides outstanding leadership, and the work towards improving curriculum with a guaranteed viable curriculum is strong. And go home and paper my walls with this, so to type all this up. As students, we did not have them prioritize this because of our sheer numbers and ran out of time. But I'm just gonna tell you the first four that popped into their heads that came up. And the first thing that was mentioned was support for the arts, and then support for diverse groups, and student involvement, and we value the potential of our students. Okay, so from the community members, the highest was good parents with parent involvement and a passion for schools, and then tied with quality facilities. Tied with good kids, smart kids. Tied with dedicated teachers, tied with good board members, and tied with freedom that comes with a small town feel. So then, of course, the inverse of this, or what are the challenges or critical needs that a new superintendent needs to be prepared to address? So from district office, division within the district, and that foundations need to be laid to build relationships between teachers and administration, between the board and teachers, between patrons and the school district. District has too many silos with too many people as direct reports to the superintendent. So looking at hierarchy. So those were the top priorities. Then for community members, the highest priorities in terms of needs was one, understand how to work with the Board of Education in a challenging atmosphere, be able to navigate a tense atmosphere that has arisen since COVID. So, and I think part of what they wanted to convey is that that's something that's emerged, some of that tense atmosphere has emerged coming out of COVID. And then the next one was help community to know more about what is being taught and the learning environment. Okay, so for the students, some of the things that they brought up, and I'm working a little from memory because I didn't put them all in order, but so staff shortages, political division, and a decrease in support for queer and racially diverse students, and a decrease in support for teachers who have been attacked. And I don't think that was physically, metaphorically. Then from administration, greatest challenge will be uniting the community and the district, followed by retention of good staff, having salaries that are competitive for all employees, and increase the understanding of revenue sources available to the district. And then within the licensed staff, the highest priority was dealing with outside and local, dealing with outside, local, and national influences on our Board of Education makes us appear to be homophobic and racist. And then the next one was teacher recruitment and retention. And then the next one was teacher morale is low due to feeling not valued by the board. So once again, those are the highest priorities. And then this classified lack of trust between the staff and the board, and between the district office and building sites and district office and staff, followed by leadership at all levels is weaker, that some hands have been tied at some levels of leadership. And then becoming less inclusive, and then resistance to change and growth. So the top priorities on that. Okay, so those are the priorities that came out of 8 to 4:30 p.m. today. And I guess I didn't quite add up our number of people, but just to give you an idea of the people who are involved here in these focus groups, we had 5 people in the district office group, 8 people in administration, 7 in the community members, 46 students, 10 classified and 14 licensed staff. So those are the number of people involved. So as I visited with you all when we talked about this before, is, you know, these characteristics become the things that we use to talk to candidates about what is Lansing looking for in their new superintendent. We use them to screen applicants to find candidates that fit what you're looking for. We use them when making reference calls to make sure we ask the right questions to get at the things that you need to know. Your interview questions, you'll want to make sure you see that alignment. And I think your new strategic plan will factor into that. And as I looked at what you had posted tonight, you can see alignment between what you have already put in your strategic plan that you want to accomplish by 2025 was represented in these focus groups today. So I think that also can make you feel pretty reliable in both activities in terms of voices from your community and what people are saying. And then, you know, finally, when you're making final decisions, those can be part of that rubric as you're doing your ranking yourself and looking at the candidates. So you've had so much on your agenda and you still have left, but what we need to do is kind of walk through this process with you, so to really drill down and finalize these characteristics. So do you have it in you tonight to continue to do this work? Do you want to have another, do you want to schedule another special board meeting when you're fresh? I don't want to just proceed without asking you this question, because this is really important work. So I don't want to take you if you need a little more time to process some of this before walking through. And I'm saying that to you right now without opening a calendar or anything. But I just want to make sure you're.
I'm good. I'm okay to proceed if you guys are.
Okay. So I'm going to go get more sticky paper. But what I'd like for you to do, so now that you know what all of the questions are, we're going to just go through a similar process. So if you'll start right now, just on your own, jot down what you think at this point, and we'll continue to process it. What do you think are the characteristics you're looking for? So think skill set, think experiences, okay, or personality traits. What are the things that you think, based on what you've heard from the online survey, the work that was done in the strategic planning, the stuff you've heard from the focus groups, plus then your lenses as board members representing the community? Oh, thank you very much. What are characteristics that you think are needed in the new superintendent to be effective? Okay, and I'm going to walk over.
However you want to do it. Strong characteristics and so far.
District vision. So let me focus a little bit on district vision.
how do you see that in relationship to strategic? Do you see that as their vision of how strategic plan goals are utilized?
I would say they do that, yes. District, and just district vision of academic excellence and student performance and student achievement, just to raise them higher, lift the students, absolutely, student success.
I would say business-minded and a forward-thinking.
You want just one? Collaborative with parents, transparent, and then the strength, integrity, the strength, the personal strength one.
I'll just echo some of the comments earlier. I think leadership, being able to lead people to multiple ways to educate students. Not only that, but it's good, they got to be able to be collaborative with the parents, with the teachers, with the students. So collaboration.
So, and looking at multiple solutions, is that what I be able to lead people to multiple disciplines?
No. I would just say that he or she needs to be able to lead multiple groups through the process of solving a problem.
Open-minded and intuitive. Think of something that comes back to this, and it's not going to take us to the next step. Come back to this. So, this is always the fun one. What are the really good things about the Lansing School District and community that board and superintendents appreciate, celebrate, and don't want to lose. And you want to be able to build on the students that we have in place. So, Michelle, you want to say? And right in this process, we don't always have that ability.
We can turn our mics on this will talk.
Yeah.
So to
Yeah.
Okay, so the good things about
The district or Lansing?
I'm sorry, both the district and or the community. What's good about schools?
I would have said the same thing.
Make sure you talk into your mic, please.
I would have said the same thing with an emphasis on the students.
So how about I separate that into two then? Okay,
With our time in the military, I would say I've seen a lot of different school districts before we settled here. And Lansing is very blessed with the resources that we have. I've been in a lot of states where couldn't have the textbooks we needed. I mean, of course, that's changed over the years to now the digital curriculum, but we are very, very blessed here. I've been in Hawaii, Louisiana, different areas that were just very, very poorly funded school systems. I know we might not always feel like it when it comes down to our budget. Could always need more, but we're very blessed with that.
We have a strong community support for the district.
I think we really have some dynamic, energetic
new administrators that have been brought on in the last year, and so their guidance would be great for this strong vision.
Yeah. We, you know, I've lived here all my life, and the one best thing that I've heard is that, like we were talking about, somebody had mentioned, you know, we're here and we like to stay here. You know, if they're military, they want to retire here. So because we are small, we've got that small community feel, but we are close to all the amenities of the big cities. And we do have, and the biggest thing for me is taking care of our kids, and that we do have great students here. We got good staff. So I think we are blessed. And like Amy said, we do have the resources, and our parents have been very supporting. The people, whether they're the parents, just all those that have been invested in the community for years, have given us always what we've needed. So we've got just a great community for our students to be in this district, and for the staff members and teachers to be working within the district. So lots of community support.
The diversity that you find in Lansing's like none other. You get all kinds of walks of life from different parts of the world that have decided to make this their home. It's a melting pot of the Midwest that if you grew up here, you've watched it evolved, and it's become better.
What are the challenges for the communities?
Sure, I'll go first. Right now, the divide that you not only feel in the community, the students, the staff, the admin, and the board is something that is a crater like Grand Canyon right now and needs to be mended.
Yeah, a district leader that can actually lead and have an understanding of all students, of all of the individuals in our community. So, and I agree, we definitely need to support one another. And I just think the leadership is, yeah, just leadership. Being able to bring everybody together.
These are challenges. Okay. There's a real need to bring outside research, just kind of think bigger, think beyond, because this is where our students are going. I think, as I said, it kind of ties to my last thumbs up with the dynamic, energetic administrators we have. We just need to mentor that, because the students are the ones taking off, and this is their launching pad. They're the ones going out into the world, and they will represent what we've provided them, and make sure that they understand and realize this is a wonderful community, and it's a wonderful place to grow up, and the freedoms and the protections that they have that they don't know about and they're not aware about. I think there needs to be a better understanding with administration, with teachers, with students, all the way up and down, because there are a lot of a lot of perks here. So the negativity, we really need to turn it around because we don't realize the good we've had. I've been to Russia. I've been to Moscow in the 80s. That's oppression. And not to dismiss where people are right now, but we need to look at the big picture.
I think a challenge will be to continue to retain and recruit teachers and staff. And a big, I mean, it's kind of a salary, we're kind of stuck on a low point with salary in our area. So with our limited finances right now, just trying to retain and recruit in other ways other than just being able to maximize the salaries. Although we still want to do that as best as we can too.
I was going to say budget. With the current economy and inflation, we're trying to manage increases all across our district. Yet, like Jeff said, the teacher pay is one thing that has stayed stagnant, although admin pay and other pay has risen traditionally across the state, and teacher pay has stayed down. But again, with the increases that we faced with busing and all the other issues with fuel, electricity, I mean, our power, all sorts of increases, it's hard to raise that and retain those teachers. So we really need someone that can try to tackle that and see what we can cut.
We've come a long way on developing a strategic plan, but I think the district needs to have a vision of what it's going to look like in the future, whether that be the 21st century or beyond. We just need to understand what it's going to take to get there. Yes, ma'am.
My points were taken, but I think, and I don't think it's necessarily a challenge, but I think just working with community and building even a better relationship with community members and businesses that we have, just increasing that relationship that we already have.